So today for our All of Lif interview, we have Shelly. Mark is a member of our church. He's involved in leading Bible studies and other things. He's deeply involved in our church. But Mark, we're here today to talk about what you do for work. And Mark,
Yes.
you have a very unique job.
Yes.
I think you are the first person that I've met that does your job. So can you just start off by telling us, what is your occupation?
I am a forensic pathologist for Maricopa County. So my job title is medical examiner. And
Wow.
I work at the Forensic Science Center downtown.
Man, I think a lot of us are probably familiar with forensics from CSI, and I'm sure your job is exactly like that, right?
Yes, it's exactly like TV.
So yeah, man, so you are like dealing with people, dead bodies, right? People who have passed, and so
Yes.
you have I'm sure you have a unique vantage point into life and death and just of what all that looks like. So that's really cool. So we always like to ask the question on these interviews is like, as an image bearer, how does your work reflect some aspect of who God is?
I think the job gives us, myself and my colleagues, a unique perspective on the human condition and how people are. We see the worst that society has to offer.
Yeah.
But we also see how we can help families who have questions. We can help answer questions for law enforcement, attorneys, insurance companies, family members. We try to provide as many answers as we can from the work we do,
Yeah.
but it can be very rewarding and very depressing at the same time.
Right. But in some respects, like you're able to provide clarity and comfort to people, even as they go through some of the most difficult things like death, right? Like you're able through your work to provide some clarity as to what's happened to their loved ones.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Sometimes the answers are obvious and sometimes we don't have an obvious answer. Sometimes we have to give possible answers
Right.
and say, well, we couldn't find a definitive answer, but here's A, B, and C, what we think it might be.
Got it.
And hopefully that provides some closure for people who otherwise wouldn't have it.
Absolutely, man. So the reality is that sin is in our world and it affects everything.
Yes.
How are you able, what vantage point do you get into the brokenness of the world through your work?
So at the medical examiner's office, we see deaths that happen as a result of non-natural things. We see a lot of drug overdoses, a lot of suicides. We see violence of one person inflicted on another person.
Yeah.
So we see, I think the overriding theme is hopelessness. People lose hope for themselves. They hurt other people because they don't see any consequences,
Yeah.
or they don't think lives matter.
Yeah.
And it's hopelessness is the biggest theme, and people don't see the big picture.
Right.
All they see is the here and now. What's happening to me right now? What am I feeling right now?
Right.
What can I fix right now? Instead of looking at the bigger picture, the long-term picture.
Right.
And they don't have hope, so they make decisions that hurt themselves or others.
Yeah, I remember when we talked, one of the things that you mentioned was just like how many people die of like normal things because they haven't, like normal sort of diseases that like just happen because you don't care for your body, right? For over a long period of time. And so it's just a reminder, like, man, God has given us these bodies to steward well. And even a little bit of care goes a long way in allowing us to avoid some of those diseases and things like that.
Our bodies are very resilient if we take care of them.
Right.
But years and years of drinking or smoking or not eating right, it eventually will catch up to you. And we see a lot of that chronic alcohol, chronic tobacco use.
Yep.
And it takes its toll eventually.
So interesting, man. So lastly, Jesus commands us to love our neighbors as ourselves. How does your job allow you to live out that command?
I feel like me and my colleagues, my coworkers, we're the last ones to speak for people who die. We're the last chance to speak up for that person, to stand up for that person and say, hey, here's what happened. We can provide a final answer, hopefully. And that person can't speak for themselves anymore, especially when something bad has happened and someone's responsible for that death. We can hopefully provide answers that bring closure to families and friends and other agencies that have a real interest in finding the truth. We're the last word, and we try to do our best to come up with the right answers to provide that last answer.
Right. Yeah. So again, you love them by providing those answers that in some ways can provide closure, right, to some really difficult situations.
Yes.
Mark, I love you, man. I'm so grateful for this interview. I don't want to end up in your office anytime soon. Man, we're really grateful for the work that you do.
It's tough work, but it's rewarding at the end of the day.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.